Let's join Heather and our registered behavior technician, Candace McCoy, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking for something that actually fits your life? TLC University is here for that. Each week, we spotlight something different. A webinar with real-world insights, a hangout-style interview, and a hands-on workshop or a Q&A where we answer your questions. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and most come with CEUs. So whether you're looking to grow, reflect, or just listen in, there's something here for you. And it's all in one place. university.thresholdlearning.org. That's where you'll find show notes, professional blogs, a full catalog of ACE-accredited courses, and downloadable resources. It all just keeps growing. So whether you're walking the dog, commuting, or taking a breather between the daily grind, TLC University meets you where you are. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org and check out what's new this week. See you then.
The purpose of feedback is to guide student learning and behavior and increase student motivation, engagement, and independence, leading to improved student learning and behavior. Effective feedback must be strategically delivered and goal-directed. Feedback is most effective when the learner has a goal and the feedback informs the learner regarding areas needing improvement and ways to improve performance. Feedback may be verbal, nonverbal, or written and should be timely, contingent, genuine, meaningful, age-appropriate, and at rates commensurate with tasks and phase of learning, for example, acquisition, fluency, and maintenance. Teachers should provide ongoing feedback until learners reach their established learning goals.
This week, we're talking about high leverage practice number 22, providing positive and constructive feedback to guide students' learning. So, Candace, I know you're constantly working with those students that are not engaged or, choosing to share their mind in ways that maybe staff would prefer not to. So, how do you provide that positive and constructive feedback in your practice?
There's so many ways to provide feedback. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I look for those opportunities in every interaction I have in every classroom. I look for opportunities with students I'm not even there to work with, just because it's my favorite thing to do. And I think it's the most powerful tool that we have to support learning. Everybody wants to know that they're doing a good job, and they want to know what specifically they're doing a good job at. And I think it boosts motivation. It fosters independence. It's not just about correcting mistakes when we're teaching. It's about guiding growth and hoping that they grow in what they're doing. And sometimes they don't realize what they're doing well. They only hear what they're doing wrong. So being very specific and pointing out what they're doing well motivates them to do more things well. I think when we only point out what they do wrong, it actually has an opposite effect and motivates them to do more things wrong. So I love the opportunity to give feedback, especially in academics. It could be something so small. I work with secondary, so middle school and high school. And for some of these kids, they're academically behind and they've just accomplished a task that you would expect a first grader to accomplish. But they deserve and should receive positive feedback for that, because that was huge for them. That was a big thing for them to do. And if we want to push them to accomplishing tasks that a second grader should accomplish, we got to give them the praise for doing what they're doing. That will motivate them. So I love to see the result of feedback. I think that if it's done appropriately, the results are so fun. It's one of probably the most fun parts of my job, is being able to see that face light up, or that confidence grow, or that the next thing that you never thought they would try to do, now they're trying to do it. It's what I live for. It's my favorite.
Oh, I know. Like every time you and I get to have a conversation, in the middle of, while you're on site or when you're on your way home from somewhere, that you are, always so excited about those moments where you could see that shift within a student. And it does, you're right. It typically comes from some form of feedback that was provided either in a way or, just there's something different about how that feedback landed for that student till you get that that shift in that moment. And yes, oh my gosh, you and I live for that.
And I feel like the feedback is for the student, but it's also for you, because
Mm.
in the moment that you're giving the feedback, you're recognizing the growth, and that boosts you as much as it boosts the student. If you ignore the growth and you don't take that minute to recognize it, then you might miss it. And you don't see what a great job you're doing in helping the student, and the student doesn't see what a great job they're doing for themselves. So like, it's mutually beneficial. I feel like I get a rise, I get a high from giving that feedback, because I feel like I've done something, I've made a difference today. This day was not a wash. It might have been a crap day all around, but that moment, for that student, things were good. I think it's very important to make sure that your feedback, especially when using it for academic purposes, is to attach that feedback to a clear learning goal. Know what your goal is. They know what the goal is. Now they've met the goal. I know I love to make lists and check things off as I complete them. That is a big deal for me. I feel very accomplished, and it might be a ridiculous list. And sometimes, just when I need motivation, I make lists of silly things and then check them off as I do them. So I think we all kind of need feedback in different ways. And for me, that's a big one. I give it to myself by making lists and checking things off. So making sure that it's directed to a clear learning goal, delivering it immediately. I see this often where teachers will wait until the end of the day and say, hey, this morning in reading, you did a really great job with that paragraph. Well, we just lost 6 hours because we could have motivated growth right in that moment rather than waiting till the end of the day, and being very specific about it when you do it. So like immediate, specific, goal directed, and appropriate, age appropriate. I mean, if you tell a high schooler who's been tying his shoes for 10 years, great job tying your shoes, that's just going to fall flat, and that's going to feel almost sarcastic rather than genuine. So make sure that your feedback is age appropriate and development appropriate. I hate to say age appropriate, because really we deal more with developmentals, I think, and something we might consider age appropriate is not necessarily developmental appropriate. So it's very important to pay attention to those things and do them immediate. And there's times where I've had students who have made me very angry, and then they do something that I didn't expect them to do, and they need feedback for that. And quite honestly, I am mad at them at that moment, and I don't want to say something nice. They've just said a whole bunch of mean things to me. But in the meantime of saying all those mean things to me, they also wrote 3 sentences that I've spent all day trying to get them to write. I got to stop, set myself aside, and give them that feedback right there, because that's going to motivate them to write more sentences instead of saying more mean things.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about that. This is a two-sided experience, right? It's not just I need to notice and figure out what I need to provide feedback on, but it's through that process. There's a staff experience in how we're perceiving, or then how we are communicating, or how we're dealing with our own stuff so that we can perceive and communicate those things. But then, yes, the whole focus is for our students to be learning, but it's this both and. I don't think that I've considered how interrelated of an experience this high leverage practice is between staff and students for it really to be done well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, you constantly are providing so much feedback to students, and I know you're always doing it in a way that you're modeling that feedback and those kind of the styles or strategies for the other staff that are in the room, right? Because, we're not in any one location all day, every day, all week, all month, all year. So you're really trying to maximize your feedback with that student, but you're trying to do it in such a way that those staff sort of notice what it is that you're doing. I'm wondering if, as you've been almost like giving twofold feedback there, is there anything that you have noticed as just an aha for staff, where if you've provided feedback in a certain way for a student and seen that shift come from them, that staff are like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Do you have any of those kind of moments that are top of mind for you?
I had a situation with a student who could not complete a task. They were given a task that just multiple efforts, creative ways, we just weren't getting this task accomplished. But the student was trying. And so my feedback was, helping that student understand how they approach the task. Like, you've done a really great job trying. I'm really proud of how hard you're trying here. Or I like the way that you thought about that, or the way that you moved that paper to work better for you. It can be something so tiny. And I've had the staff say, I didn't really think about providing feedback on the process. I was looking at the end results. And I'm like, this student in this moment is probably not going to get that positive feedback if you wait till the end result, because it's becoming very clear that we're not going to get there. So I'm looking for other things. And I see this kid trying. I see him getting creative. I see him thinking through. I see him taking a deep breath. I mean, thank God you took a deep breath. You're learning to self-regulate. And that's something I want to teach you to do as you proceed through education, because you're going to face challenging tasks. So I think that was a kind of a big aha moment, was I don't have to wait until we've reached the goal. I can complement the way that they're trying to reach the goal.
Yeah, that learning process as opposed to the learning product, right? Like the learning outcomes. We're not only going to say thank you for completing or mastering whatever that may be. It's all the little things. And I really appreciate that you were noticing things that weren't even academics, because I think sometimes when we're talking about providing that constructive feedback when it comes to learning, we're thinking almost more in micro skills. We know that learning outcome that we need to hit, and we know all of the other learning targets that need to get hit along the way so that we can get to that outcome. But that example you just gave wasn't any of that. It was all of like those soft skills and, that frustration tolerance and the choice to continue to engage, even though that product or outcome isn't happening, hasn't happened, and honestly may not happen in this moment unless we catch all of those little pieces along the way. Like, you're noticing those positive choices that the student is making around the learning activity, which is what is going to then make learning so possible in that moment. In that moment, you had to see that the student was actually trying. Like, you weren't just getting frustrated with the student not performing or, not getting through their task as fast as they need to, or they've just got this history of not doing their work. And so they just don't do their work, right? Like, you had to see, oh no, actually they are trying. And I think sometimes staff struggle because they just see the repeated lack of outcome. And then that just becomes, in some ways, like their expectation, which then is really, really hard to find good moments of, like, I don't know, even just ways of providing feedback, because now the kid's already meeting those expectations because you've built almost like a new expectation based on that lack of performance. So I guess, like, how do you still see the potential behind students when there is such a, I don't know, kind of that history of lack of performing?
That's my little victories that I talk about all the time in every classroom. Like, celebrate the little tiny things, the little steps. I'm asking you to write something that I know with Shane. Shane hates writing. If he picks up the pencil, he gets feedback from me. Like, all right, first step, great job. Then when he writes a letter, he gets feedback from me. Great job. It's little victories instead of looking at the whole end picture, which we so get caught up in.
So in the story that you were giving, you're talking about working with a student who has rarely actually performed that task. They rarely made it to the outcome, either learning outcome or even just completing the task. So in that moment, how are you choosing to see the potential that is in that student, as opposed to, I mean, just taking that history and letting that somewhat become like your new expectations of what that student is capable of doing?
We have to be very mindful of unconscious biases that we get. Students show us one thing and we can struggle to see potential outside of that. So I think it's really important to always kind of check yourself and make sure that you're giving them the opportunity to learn, not assuming they'll refuse to learn, and then celebrating every little victory on the way to that path. It could be something so small as picking up a pencil, or, if they've never done that before, if you've told them to write and they won't even pick up the pencil, but today they picked up the pencil, let's celebrate that victory, because we're one step closer and we all respond better to positive feedback. And the goal is to get them to write. And if they won't pick up the pencil, they're nowhere there. So picking up the pencil is completing an academic task. we are one step closer to what it is we're trying to do. So I think allowing them to change, allowing them to grow, and not sticking them in kind of a box in our minds is step one. Because they'll change, they'll grow, they'll surprise you. Be open to those surprises because those are the best days.
For sure. Yeah, but I think those surprises, like, we have to then continue to be noticing, right? Like, we need to continue to say, okay, this is where they've been, but I'm choosing to believe that there is more than that. We just got to figure out how to get there. And any of those, like you're saying, those small wins, those little victories, like any of those little pieces that are moving us closer in that direction of what we're still holding true as like a potential for that student, call it out. Let them know. Like, sometimes they don't even know because they just know that they haven't hit that outcome or that goal, or they haven't done exactly, you know, hit that completion point in the way that their staff are expecting them to. So I think I've worked with a lot of students that they don't even give themselves credit for all of the things that they are doing that is even getting them to show up in a way that they could learn, and really like make that progress happen. And I think for staff, sometimes we just forget, because for us, it's our occupation. We just show up and we do the education thing. And we kind of forget how many different choices really need to be made in that student experience so that they can actually show up and engage in the learning that we're trying to get them through.
And I think it's important to mention that not all feedback is going to be great job or positive. It doesn't mean that it has to be negative, but there are times in which our feedback is in the form of a correction where we are trying to get a student to learn something that they don't know how to do, and odds of them doing it right every single time are fairly slim. And so what we want them to do is the correct way. And so sometimes we need to provide correction. And I think we can do that in a positive way if we look at that feedback as part of the journey and not a judgment, and that we do those things privately. We do not want to call students out and embarrass them in front of their peers.
Yeah.
Praise publicly and correct privately so that that student knows what they did wrong, what the actionable next steps are in order to correct that, and then allow them to ask questions and reflect on that and make that correction a part of a process that the student is involved in. I oftentimes hear teachers, they're busy and they're walking through the classroom and they're like, that's wrong. And they keep walking, you did that wrong. And then they move on. And then the student just sits there like, well, I just wasted my time, So I think making it part of the journey and not just such a, nope, you didn't listen, it's probably what they heard. Or maybe they didn't listen. Sometimes they're not listening. But anyway, around it, if we want to get them to learn what it is we're teaching, we have to provide that correction as well. And that needs to be in a meaningful and safe place for them to receive correction and be able to move past it to do things the way that they should be doing them.
Yeah, thank you for calling out that just because this high leverage practice says positive doesn't mean that we're only ever noting what they are doing correctly, right? Like, that's the concept of constructive, right? Like, we can note what they are doing correctly as well as what they are not doing correctly, but how we are providing that feedback is what makes it constructive. So literally everything you just listed off is the difference between nope, got it wrong, and just being corrective, as opposed to then providing the support, noticing some of those other things, marrying both the what I'm noticing you're doing and, let's make sure that we're, shifting, these aspects of your learning so that you can, continue moving in that learning trajectory, that it's that both and together you can be corrective in a constructive way. And that's what this high leverage practice is talking about, providing constructive feedback for those learning outcomes.
I love the classrooms where I see students look for the feedback. They've grown to expect it and they value it. And whether it's that's not exactly correct, or here's how I would rather you do that, or wow, you did such a great job on that. They look for it. And you'll see a student do something and then look to the teacher, waiting to see what kind of response they're going to have. So those are classrooms in which I know that the teacher is intentional and consistent with their feedback, and the students crave it. They're looking for it and they're far more motivated because of it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you kind of see in those classrooms. I know you're always working with the students who are typically not engaging and giving a lot of pushback to staff. So, the fact that you are leveraging feedback in such constructive and positive ways, and you have seen so much growth out of students in those moments, as well as even just the staff perspectives of those students as they start to see that student shift. Thank you so much for engaging in this conversation with me.
Yep, thank you.
Working in a self contained, alternative education, therapeutic, or correctional classroom? Project Onward is a 6-strand cohort based project designed to help you build a strong, structured program for complex students who need extra specialized support. You'll get practical tools to set up clear routines, strengthen engagement, manage behavior, and plan instruction that actually fits the splintered needs of your students. By the end, you'll walk away with a complete, ready to use program that has been adapted to your local needs. Led by Heather Bolchko, Lathrell Eisler, Jonathan Barbario, and Manny Wasias, Project Onward blends proven strategies with vetted experience, helping you move forward with confidence. If you're creating something from the ground up or looking to update what you've got, this project gives you the structure and clarity to do it well. If you support students with low incident needs, Project Base helps you design a consistent classroom built just for them. And if you're working in general ed or resource settings with behavioral challenges, Project Thrive gives you the tools to work with, not against, the flow of your classroom. Visit university.thresholdlearning.org to meet the team and get started today. Let's move onward, together.
Instructional feedback plays a crucial role in guiding student learning while boosting motivation, engagement, and independence, ultimately leading to better academic performance. Its primary purpose is to help students recognize what they already know and pinpoint areas of improvement. Effective feedback should be timely, meaningful, and specific, aligning closely with the student's developmental stage. It can take various forms, whether through questioning, written comments, scaffolding instruction, or even digital feedback. The effectiveness of feedback isn't driven by extrinsic rewards or programmed instruction, as these methods don't significantly impact academic achievement. Instead, feedback is most impactful when it's goal directed, providing students with a clear understanding of where they stand in relation to their objective and how they can make progress. This goal driven feedback gives students actionable steps, helping them to actively move toward mastering the content. By connecting feedback to prior learning, teachers reinforce what students already know, using language that is appropriate and constructive. Feedback can serve multiple purposes, such as correcting errors, suggesting more efficient strategies, or helping students regulate their own learning process. However, it's important to tailor the feedback based on where the student is in the learning process. For example, error correction feedback is more effective during initial learning, but as students move toward fluency, overcorrecting can hinder progress. The focus should shift to addressing faulty interpretations and providing cues that help students find more efficient paths toward understanding. A powerful aspect of feedback is encouraging self evaluation, allowing students to recognize and correct their own mistakes. This helps foster independence, self regulation, and confidence in their ability to learn and master academic content. Through this kind of structured feedback, students not only learn how to improve academically, but also develop critical skills in evaluating their own progress and applying strategies effectively. The goal of high leverage practices, HLPs, is to outline a set of essential strategies that are not only effective, but absolutely critical to every educator's daily practice. While all 22 HLPs hold significance, some stand out as especially fundamental, consistently appearing as key elements in multiple areas. HLP 22, which focuses on providing positive and constructive feedback, is one such cornerstone. Its importance is highlighted by the fact that it shows up in both the instructional and social, emotional, and behavioral domains. HLP 22 in instruction and HLP 8 in the behavioral sphere. The reason feedback is so critical is simple. None of the practices within these domains can be effectively taught or implemented without it. Feedback is the bridge between student actions, whether academic or behavioral, and the understanding of whether those actions meet expectations. It's the means through which students and educators gain insight into their performance, offering them clear direction on how to improve or build upon their skills. This isn't just about correcting mistakes, but also fostering growth by providing thoughtful, specific responses that address both strengths and areas for improvement. To truly excel, one must master the ability to swiftly assess student performances and craft feedback that is caring, precise, and constructive. It's not just about telling students where they went wrong or right. It's about doing so in a way that motivates and guides them, helping them internalize the learning process. This makes the feedback process one of the most crucial skills in the educator's toolbox, deeply woven into the fabric of effective teaching and student success. Teachers who are truly effective in promoting active student engagement understand the critical role that feedback plays in guiding students toward their learning goals. To bridge the gap between what students currently know and where they need to go, teachers must ask key questions. Where is the student headed? How is the student progressing? And what are the next steps? Effective feedback isn't just about correcting mistakes. It's about scaffolding learning in a way that supports growth at multiple levels. At the task level, feedback helps students understand and complete the work at hand. At the process level, it focuses on the strategies needed to succeed, helping students develop a deeper understanding of how to approach their tasks. Then, at the self-regulation level, feedback encourages students to monitor their own progress, fostering independence and ownership of their learning. What's key here is that the feedback remains specific and task-focused. It's not about the student as an individual, but about what they are doing, where they're excelling, and where they need more support. For students who are struggling, timely and immediate feedback can make all the difference, allowing them to course correct in real time rather than becoming discouraged. Feedback is also most effective when it's goal-directed, giving students a clear sense of how their current work aligns with their overall objectives. Misunderstandings should be addressed not by simply pointing out what's missing, but by guiding the student to a clearer understanding of the content or process at hand. Lastly, teachers should always consider the unique characteristics of their students. Factors like developmental stage, learning history, cultural background, and age all influence how feedback is received and acted upon. Tailoring feedback to these personal factors ensures it is meaningful, motivating, and supportive of each student's learning journey. For school leaders, supporting teachers in delivering effective feedback requires more than just encouraging its use. It involves providing clear instruction, professional development, and coaching on how to implement feedback effectively across various settings. The goal is to ensure that educators not only understand the different types of feedback, but also apply them consistently and with fidelity, adapting to the needs of different student groups and contexts. Equally important is the feedback given to educators themselves. School leaders should regularly observe teachers' use of feedback with students, offering constructive insights into the quality and effectiveness of their delivery. If any gaps are identified, coaching or additional support should be provided to ensure teachers can refine their approach. School leaders can reinforce these practices by modeling effective feedback in a variety of classroom settings. By making this expectation visible and demonstrating it in action, leaders can set a clear example for all professionals in the building, ensuring that the feedback becomes a core, effective tool across the entire school. Feedback is one of the most potent tools at a teacher's disposal when it comes to boosting student achievement. As research has uncovered and highlighted, its influence on learning outcomes is profound. But for feedback to truly make an impact, it has to be delivered with expertise. Teachers need a deep understanding of where each student stands in their knowledge of a skill or content area, and from there, they must craft feedback that not only acknowledges what the student knows, but also guides them toward deeper understanding. When feedback is applied consistently and thoughtfully, the result can be transformative, leading to significant improvements in educational achievement. It's not just about giving feedback. It's about using it in a way that aligns with where the students are in their learning journey and help them grow from that point forward. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week as Heather sits down with supervising BCBA Verancia Montford to talk about our next high-leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow @ThresholdLearningTLC on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that they catch their podcast. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.